As most of you probably know, Canelo Alvarez is fighting Edgar Berlanga this Saturday. And along with seeing Canelo Alvarez back in the ring, we also get to see potentially one of the best cards of the year. So before this fight takes place, it's important to go over all the fights on the main card and see what they're fighting for and who's fighting, and we'll even be talking about obviously Canelo's matchup with Berlanga near the end. Rolly Romero will be going up against Manuel Jaimes. Romero in his last fight fought Isaac Pitbull Cruz and took a brutal beating until he was stopped in the 8th round. This is a very important fight for Rolly Romero. If he loses this fight, he may not ever fight on this level again. The two biggest fights of his career, he's lost by knockout: Gervonta Davis and Pitbull Cruz. A loss here could end the career of Romero. But on the other hand, for Manuel Jaimes, a win here could really upstart his career and put him in the championship direction, as he currently holds a record of 16-1 with 11 knockouts, and this is somewhat of a step up for him, as he's fighting his most experienced opponent on the championship level. And interestingly enough, Rolly Romero seems to be overlooking Jaimes, as he's claimed he's never seen him fight.
How do you prepare for a guy of his style?
I don't know. I never seen him fight, so.
Moving on to the next fight, which is Stephen Fulton versus Carlos Castro. And Stephen Fulton was a former unified super bantamweight world champion at one point, until his last fight where he was knocked out by pound for pound star Naoya Inoue. And ever since then, he's been out of the ring for about a year now. So this fight for him will be sort of a bounce back fight against an opponent that may not have many accomplishments on paper, but he's proven he can compete with champion level fighters, as his only two losses are from Luis Neri and Brandon Figueroa. Against Neri, he was knocked down in the very first round, but picked up the pace and pushed the fight to a split decision. And even against Figueroa, he was very much in the fight and competitive, until the 6th round where the ref abruptly stopped the fight, with many people thinking he didn't get a chance, and it was an early stoppage. But no matter what your opinion is, it doesn't change the fact that Carlos Castro is a tough fighter, and beating him won't be easy for anyone. Next on the list is Caleb Plant versus Trevor McCumby. Caleb Plant is a veteran of the sport, being a former IBF super middleweight world champion and only losing to elite level fighters like David Benavidez and Canelo Alvarez himself, with Trevor McCumby on the other hand having a much slower career. At the age of 31, he's only fought low-level opposition, but while he maintained a perfect record, he's having the biggest step up of his career, and being on the biggest stage of his career, he's going up against a guy like Caleb Plant, who's really done it all. He's fought against the best fighters, he's outboxed opponents with his speed, he's knocked out opponents with one punch. It's honestly a mismatch in experience, but the bad blood and trash talk between Plant and McCumby has definitely made this fight must-see TV.
You know, this guy, he's been making Instagram videos with my name in it, talking about, you know, certain guys who don't respect the sport, certain guys who get a couple big paydays and they just go, you know, wallow in their money. And it's crazy to me that someone like him could make a video about me talking about guys who don't respect the sport. Because I respect the sport enough to step up with only 17 fights to fight a world champion, Jose Uzcati, coming off a year layoff. Do you respect the sport enough to do that? I respect the sport enough to not be a 31, 32-year-old prospect. Do you? I respect the sport enough to be a clean athlete. What about you? Huh?
I do.
You respect the sport enough to be a clean athlete? I read differently.
Now, in the final fight before Canelo versus Berlanga, we have the battle of the veterans, Danny Garcia versus Erislandy Lara. Both these guys are highly skilled and have tons of experience in the ring, as Danny Garcia is 36 years old and Erislandy Lara is actually 41. But despite being 41 years old, he's the current WBA middleweight world champion, defending his title against Danny Garcia. In Lara's last fight, he got a 2nd round knockout against Michael Zarafa. And insanely enough, even at the age of 41, in his last 5 fights, he's 5-0 with 4 knockouts. But for Danny Garcia, he hasn't been very active in the past couple years, with his last fight being in July of 2022 against Jose Benavidez, where he would outbox Jose Benavidez and win a clear decision. In my opinion, this could be the best fight of the entire card. It's truly a 50-50 fight with two highly skilled fighters. With both fighters being in the later stages of their career, this could be the last time we see either of them in the ring. So to end the video, I want to quickly go over my fight predictions. I'm going to make a bold prediction and say that Manuel Jaimes beats Rolly Romero. I think Stephen Fulton versus Carlos Castro will be competitive, but ultimately Fulton will outbox him. And I think Caleb Plant steamrolls McCumby and gets a late round knockout. And I think Danny Garcia is going to win a close decision against Erislandy Lara. And of course I got Canelo by knockout against Berlanga. So my next video will be covering the actual card and what happened, and we'll see if any of my predictions are right. So see you next time, and peace.